Great. So I will just jump right into it.
Okay.
So question one was,
Okay.
what were your fears or challenges going into your first couple years of teaching, and how did you overcome those?
Okay. So when I first began teaching, I was covering an LTO. So it was started right in the middle of the school year. They had had several substitutes for a couple of weeks. So there was no background. So I didn't know what the students had already covered. There was no resources for me, really no structure in the classroom. And I found that very overwhelming. I had also never taught French before. So I hadn't had an AQ course as well in French. I had no idea how to teach a second language or how to program for French classes. So I felt really lost. And I was also the only French teacher in the school. So it was really overwhelming. So what I did is the first thing I did was to establish consistent routines in the class. So for our reading, speaking, writing, and listening. And I also scoured for resources because I had nothing. I wasn't thinking I was going to be teaching French. I called the school board and I asked if they had any French resources, and they did. So I went there and they had these big kits made up with different units. And so I borrowed those, and I found it really helpful just to read pre-planned units. And it helped me as I grew as a teacher as well, how to plan the lessons, how to plan the units myself. So that was really helpful. That's how I got through my first year.
That's amazing. Yeah, I know it can be pretty stressful at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So the next question I have for you is, what is your individual strategy for a successful year of teaching core immersion or extended, sorry?
Establishing routines, as I said before. So that's really stuck with me. I found it very helpful. I have either weekly or daily routines for reading and writing, speaking and listening skills. So I found that helps as well with classroom management. So I have that structure for my day. My students know what to expect every day in the classroom. Yeah, it really makes them self-sufficient, and it really helps when they know what to do. So for example, with some of the routines, I use the Part du Jour routine for speaking every day. So I give my students the opportunity to be the teacher for the day, and they have some questions that they ask about the weather, about the date, like calendar kind of questions. So they enjoy that too. And then I can kind of mix it up. For them, for writing, I put a photo up. I do that weekly, and a photo up on the screen. And then we either do a list of nouns or verbs or adjectives that maybe relate to the photo, and they can use their dictionaries as well to help find it. So it helps with language acquisition or vocabulary acquisition as well. Great. And then for listening, every day we listen to a video or a song. And for reading, I have pre-cut strips of paper and a pocket chart, and then I'll think of a little sentence and write one word on each one and put it in the pocket chart, and then we unscramble it.
Awesome.
So just little simple routines, but they know what to expect, and then they get really strong at doing those skills by the end of the year. It's nice.
Great. That's amazing. Awesome. My next question is, can you share 3 tips that reduce stress and overwhelm when planning either for the year or during the year?
Sure. There's a lot of stress and overwhelm at first, but I know not a lot of teachers have the luxury of time. So usually, teachers get hired the week before school starts, but I really like to start long range planning in the summertime when I don't have anything else going on. So just even doing a brief outline of the year, goals that you want to achieve every month, or just snuggle up with the curriculum and a cup of tea and really get to know the French curriculum in your province. So that's really helpful. That's tip number 1.
Okay, awesome.
Also, tip number 2, if you're teaching more than one grade, think about how you can modify the activities you're doing with one grade. So often you're teaching 4 grades as a French teacher, or maybe 8 all at once. How can you modify those activities? So like something you're teaching to grade 2, how can you modify that and make it more advanced for grade 6 so that you're not individually planning for each grade, because that's really a lot of work to try and do that. I started doing that and no. So that's really helpful. Tip number 3 for new teachers, don't try and reinvent the wheel yet. When you're just starting out, don't feel like you need to like make all your own unit plans or do everything from scratch. You'll just get really burnt out. Try and use some pre-planned unit guides, and over time you'll learn what works well for you and your students, and how to structure those units. And yeah, you don't have to do it all at once.
Awesome. Great. I know most of us probably will try to do that. And so this is
yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. My next question is, can you share 3 things that new teachers should stop doing either right now or in their first year in order to be successful?
Yes, I wish I could go back and tell myself these things. But okay, so number 1, stop feeling like an imposter. So you are a trained teacher, you have teaching and volunteer experience through your practice teaching. Just own it, be confident, and your students will have confidence in you.
Amazing.
So that's number 1. A second thing to stop doing, stop grading everything. Oh man, you don't need to feel swamped with paperwork, especially when you maybe possibly teaching French to over 100 students every day. Try and use your formative and summative assessment strategies. Use activities just as learning opportunities and your chance for observation, and see if you need to reteach something. Yeah, as well. So
great. Amazing.
Yeah. And the third thing is stop trying to feel that you have to do it alone. So even if you are the only French teacher in your school, please try and reach out to other teachers for help. Most do remember the challenges of being a first-year teacher, and they want to help you. And don't be embarrassed to ask for help. If you don't have any other French language teachers in your school board might have a French contact for you, or ask your administrator if they know some other French teachers that they may have worked with that they can put you in touch with. Also, something that I didn't have when I started teaching is social media. And being a teacher on social media right now, I get so many teachers that reach out to me and ask me for tips, for help, even for interviews in the summer, for jobs. And I love helping them. I love, reflecting on my own experiences and maybe putting them in touch with some helpful resources or websites that they can use as well. So don't be afraid to ask.
Great. That's an amazing tip. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Right. The next question I have is, what is your morning and or after school routine or habit that really helps you during the year?
Okay, so in the morning, I always try to get to school at least 30 minutes before the students start arriving. It just gives me an opportunity to make sure that all my technology is working correctly. I can hook things up and I don't feel rushed. I just find like I have a better day if I don't feel like I'm rushing in the morning. But after school is when I do most of my work. So I make sure that my day planner has all of the lessons written out for the next day. I do any photocopying that I need for the next day and organize my supplies. And I have found that this way I don't have any extra running around in the morning.
Fair enough.
As well.
So after school works best for you personally for your planning and stuff.
Yes, that's right.
Great. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we're clear. The next question I have is, which I think you've touched on a little bit before, but what is one thing or something that you know now in your career that you wish you knew when you were starting off as a core extended French teacher?
For me, it was knowing that for many students, learning a second language can be extremely stressful. And it's not something that I went into teaching understanding. And simply knowing this and being empathetic to your students can go a long way in setting your students up for success. So to help your students feel more comfortable, let them know that it's okay to make mistakes, tell them stories about mistakes that you've made, Also, just having visual supports available whenever possible, like anchor charts, vocabulary lists, little desk cards, maybe with useful phrases for them to use, something that's accessible, or anything that's going to set your students up for success.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I only have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
So what is one thing that new teachers can do today to prepare themselves for teaching? So whether that's in the summer and they don't have a job yet and they don't know, or they have gotten their job and they want to prepare, whichever tip you have, what can someone do today?
I would make your classroom management plan. So you can do that whether you have a classroom already, whether you're going to be a substitute teacher or full-time teacher, have that plan. So think of expectations that you have for your classroom from your students, from yourself, like maybe raising your hand to speak or respecting school property, treat each other with respect, and then write these down and then think about what do these behaviors look like to you, because respect can, you need to illustrate that for your students, what that means to you specifically, and then create like a hierarchy of consequences. So maybe you're going to start off with a verbal warning, or maybe a note or phone call home next, and then administrator intervention. This way, it'll be really clear right from the start of the year. Stick to it. Share that with your students, go over it, maybe get them to sign it. But I'll have that with you all the time. So yeah.
Great. That is an amazing tip. Awesome. And my very last question for you today, Jennifer, is who was or is your mentor or inspiration?
I was so lucky my first year teaching that I had a teaching partner who had been teaching for 20 years. So he was amazing, and he was so relaxed and just a really confident teacher. So he helped me find my own confidence. He helped me realize that everything's not going to go according to plan. Even if I plan the perfect lesson, it's not always going to go the way I think it's going to go. And sometimes you just need to feel, how your students are feeling that day. Like, are they going to be ready to do like a big in-depth lesson, or is it the day before winter vacation or something, or is there something else going on in the school that day that's distracting them? Maybe it's not a good day for that. So it helped me be more flexible as a teacher. So that was fantastic.
Awesome.
I'm so thankful for him.
Yeah, that must have been great knowing that you had someone
so
there.
Good. I'm so lucky. Yeah.
Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you so much for answering the list of questions I had for you. I know that a bunch of new teachers are going to really benefit from what you just shared and your experiences that you've had over your career. So thank you so much.
Thanks for asking me to be a part of this.
Of course.